Hi there, my lovely subscribers. How are you all doing today? Today we will be going over one of my favorite topics in League, initiation. So what exactly does initiation mean in League? Initiation, as defined by Team Dignitas, is the ability or tactic that allows one player or team to force another player or team into a fight, generally in the initiating player's advantage. Initiation is an extremely powerful trait to have in a team, simply because it can heavily influence the outcome of any fight by extracting contributors. My champion can do something in a fight, dealing damage as the baseline for this assumption. But having an initiator means that you are taking people's chance of acting in a team fight. If you hit a Malphite ult on 3 people to initiate the fight, you'll already be fighting 5v2 for a brief moment, and a severely disadvantaged 5v5 from then on in your favor. Take a look at a perfect example of initiation by Sakeios, and see the impact it had on the team fight that occurred because of it.
On the outside, he gets swapped in with the position reverser. How is TSM still alive in this one? They are doing everything they can, but Cloud9 closes the door on that fight. A 5-man.
So what traits should an initiator have then? There's a few characteristics that make up most of the top-notch initiators in the game. Being that they'll literally be the first ones to throw themselves at the enemy team, initiators must have at least 2 of these 3 things. 1. Good crowd control, like stuns, slows, fears, taunts, snares, etc. 2. An ability that allows them to alter their own position, like a dash or a flash. And 3. The ability to take a substantial beating and live. You can see that Sejuani possesses all 3 of these, which is why she serves as a perfect initiator example for this video. Note that sometimes, some champions will be able to force a fight by CCing just one enemy in a bad position. Champions like Lee Sin, Skarner, or Ahri have the ability to make your team lock someone down fairly quickly, making them what I'd call a second initiator. And why is it that initiation is so important then? Well, I shall now be quoting something I read that applies perfectly to the situation, and I must give my props to the guy that wrote this, called Necrotali. An initiator is trying to hand you kills. As the old saying goes, I hold, you punch. If you were to throw rocks at 3 bullies on the playground, chances are they'd dodge them and then beat you up. However, if your buddies run over and tackles them, you're free to walk up and kick them in the shins. I need to keep these PG friendly. Essentially, what your friends did for you was initiate a team fight. What happens in most of my games is that I see our mid laner impatiently try to start the fights and end up dying because of it. League is a game of patience. Often, the team that can hold their ground for longest, waiting for the enemies to impatiently commit a mistake, ends up winning. What about initiation timings? It is very important, perhaps even more important than all of this, to know when to initiate, and also when to follow up on a bad initiation. There's 5 things for you to consider fully before initiating a team fight or following up on one. 1. Do you outnumber the enemy, or do they outnumber you? This should be your very first thought. You should never force a team fight if one of your team members is dead or splitting and the enemies have grouped up. Vision is also super important. Sometimes you may think you're engaging on a 4v3 fight, when in fact the remaining 2 members of the enemy team were just around the corner. 2. Are you in a good position? Is the enemy in a bad position? This comes down to knowing what your team is capable of doing when you're fighting, and what the enemy can do to counter that. I can't tell you how many good fights I've lost because our team decided to fight in the jungle versus a rumble. Never a good idea to just roast there. 3. Do you have enough CC for what you want to do? Can the enemy counter that? You should know what your aim is depending on who you're playing. It's totally different to initiate a fight as Rammus or as Sejuani. At the same time, it's different from initiating on an Annie or a LeBlanc. 4. What is the point of that team fight? Fighting to save an objective or to take one? Are you fighting to prevent the enemy team from winning or to force down your own win? And finally, are you being baited? There's a good chance that the enemy team knows who the initiator of your team is and how to deal with him. In which case, be the smart one and think ahead. As I said before, patience is the name of the game. That is it for initiation today. But in the end, instead of objectives, I'll leave you with what I believe are the best initiators in the game. And you should always have one of these. Amumu, Blitzcrank, Galio, Hecarim, Jarvan, Leona, Malphite, Nautilus, Orianna, Rammus, Sejuani, Skarner, Sona, Thresh, Varus, Vi, Warwick, and Wukong. If you understand what makes these good initiators, then I'm glad to know that this video paid off. Thank you once again for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Sakeios out.